So here are 3 things you can copy from the Andy Murray forehand to help improve your forehand. Now, first, make sure you have subscribed to Court Level Tennis. All of their videos are like this. Right behind the players, super close, incredible footage. I've put their link in the description below. All right, so the first thing that we can learn from Andy Murray's forehand, and you hear it from me a lot because it's so important. Put your non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket, and I really like how the tip of his racket is around head level. It makes it manageable for him to handle, especially for recreational players to copy. So when you take the racket back, make sure you're not taking the racket down. Take the racket back with both hands, and if you think of it as the tip of the racket is the same height as your head, it's an easy way to check the videos of you hitting forehands to compare it to Andy Murray. Now, the second thing is something a bit unique to Andy Murray, and that is his strings face down the entire time. So just look at him turn. Here, his strings are down. Now just notice the entire time he's swinging, his strings are pointing down. Strings are down, strings are down. This is called a closed racket face when your strings are facing down toward the ground. It makes it very simple then to have your strings face forward when you strike the ball. Players who turn and their racket faces open tend to not get square against the back of the ball. Now you look at, let's say, Rafael Nadal. Here, Murray is strings closed. Well, Nadal in this position actually has his strings open. That's not something you would want to copy from Rafa Nadal, right? So his forehand's obviously amazing, but you actually want to have, typically as a recreational player, it's easier to have the strings closed at this point, helps keep the swing smaller as well. So I want you to have your racket closed, pointing down the entire time, especially if you're someone who lacks topspin. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you, and then I'll demonstrate this in front of the camera, I want you to look at his non-hitting hand. I mention this to you all the time in my videos. When you film yourself from the back view, scroll through the footage and stop the video when the ball and racket meet. And I want you to look for your non-hitting hand. I would love it if it was visible over your non-hitting shoulder. This is vital to making sure that you can rotate your hips. So he is moving his non-hitting hand up and out of the way. And when he moves it up and out of the way, it makes it very easy for his hips to rotate. So you can see when he turns, the ball comes, he gets his whole body facing off to the side. Well, many players struggle turning their hips from this point because their non-hitting hand doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Many players just drop it. It becomes a counterweight. Players hug themselves and they look like they're in a straitjacket. That's not what you want. You want to move your non-hitting hand up and over, almost like you're shoving someone out of the way. And when you do it correctly, you'll actually be able to see the hand over your non-hitting shoulder. Now to help me demonstrate this, I've got the Topspin Pro here. To get your own, you know what to do. Use my affiliate link in the description below. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. All right, when Andy Murray turns, he turns with both hands and two-headed monster, right? Racket head, your head at a similar height. Two heads are better than one. So take the racket up. It makes a beautiful high-low, high swing from there. So you don't want to be taking the racket down or more medium. Have your head and the racket head at a similar height. So I'll hit some balls here, and I'm going to turn with both hands and the racket head around my head height. You can add a split step to the shot, and you can see the ball spinning. This is the way you want to spin the ball when hitting consistent forehands. The next idea. What's unique about Andy's swing, and it's a bit like Agassi, TFO does this, is that the racket face is closed throughout the entire stroke. Take Nadal, for instance. When Nadal turns, he turns like this, and the racket face is open. I absolutely would not recommend that you copy that aspect of Nadal's forehand. It will complicate the forehand so much for you. Can someone as talented as Nadal do it? Absolutely, but you wouldn't purposely, I hope, a coach wouldn't purposely teach this move. This is a bit of a signature to the Nadal swing, but I wouldn't copy that. What I actually like is that Andy Murray keeps his strings pointing down the whole time. Off camera, let me grab this. I wasn't expecting to do this, but I see it. I've got a handheld mirror here. If you have a handheld mirror, you can practice the forehand by having the mirror point at the ground the whole time, then hit on the Topspin Pro. Point the mirror at the ground and then hit on the Topspin Pro. It's the same idea here with the forehand. I've got my mirror and I'm going to turn both hands on, racket head and my head the same height, but I'm going to have my strings pointing down the whole time. The reason this helps you is because now it allows you to swing up the back of the ball and spin the ball. You can still really crush the ball and compress and get a lot of speed and force, but you're also going to be adding the spin because when your racket face is closed, it allows you to swing up and get the ball to rotate. Many players have the racket straight up and down, and it forces them to have to hit flat, or if they do try to swing up, the racket's open, then they try to roll, and it just creates inconsistency. So by having the racket face closed the entire time, it really makes it easier to hit topspin. You can swing up aggressively, and you get the spin to bring that ball down. So I'm going to turn with both hands, and you're going to see that I'm going to point my strings down the whole time. I had someone in the comment section of a previous video I make talk about how I wasn't doing this a lot on the forehand. Well, that's typically because when you watch the pros doing that, they're swinging at incredible speeds. I'm in my basement here, everyone. I don't want to put holes in the wall and scratch up and bust a hole in one of the ceiling tiles here in the basement. So I'm swinging ever so lightly and gently here when I'm demonstrating this. So that's why I'm not swinging super fast and you're not seeing incredible racket speed. It would be different if I were out on court hitting on the slinger bag, hitting on the ball machine, but it's raining today, so I have to make videos indoors. The last thing, this is one of my absolute favorite tips for recreational players. And I would say 90% of club tennis players do not do this as well or as often as they need to. And it's when you film yourself, stop the video at contact, and look to see that your non-hitting hand is visible over the non-hitting shoulder. I call this wave to the opponent when you're striking the ball. We talk about the need to turn the hips because the hips turning is what creates this pre-stretch. Vic Braden called it the pre-stretch. Is the hips turning create this pre-stretch, and it can help you get a lot of racket speed with a very short swing. But in order to turn the hips, you have to use this front arm. So it's almost like you're moving someone out of the way, or with a wall here, I don't know if you can see this, I hope I'm still in the camera, but with a wall here, it's like I'm gonna hit the wall and then hit my forehand. So I turn, I hit the wall, then I hit the forehand. So it's almost like you're moving someone out of the way, or it's like you're waving. By moving this arm out of the way, it allows me to then turn my hips. If your non-hitting hand stays here, it can actually create a situation where you hug yourself, then you can't turn your hips. So film yourself from the back and stop the video at contact. Right now, if on your phone, you have video footage of your forehand from the back, scroll through it right after this video. Stop the video at contact and look for your non-hitting hand. Is it visible over your non-hitting shoulder? Is it down here? I don't want it down here. Is it over here? This would be worse. This would be the worst place it could be. I'd rather it be here than over here. At least that means it moved out of the way. But when it's high, it absolutely ensures that now, next week, next year, and 10 years from now, that you're going to be able to turn your hips and you're not going to create bad habits. So I'm going to do all three things. I'm turning with both hands, I'm keeping my strings pointing down, and when I hit the ball, my non-hitting hand is going to be visible. I'm just going to add the catch, which is what I teach, just to make sure that my non-hitting hand is here. I'm going to catch to make sure that my non-hitting hand was in the right spot. So you get a Topspin Pro, you can be doing this on a rainy day. So your friends, they don't get to practice. They don't get to work on their technique because it's raining. You, on the other hand, you have a secret weapon, the Topspin Pro. Again, link is in the description and pinned in the first comment. Now, if you're looking for new people in your local area to play matches against or join a league, or people to practice against, both singles and doubles, or if you're looking for a coach in your local area who can help you with your forehand, then simply use my link in the description. I'm also going to pin this in the first comment, playyourcourt.com/2minute tennis. When you join Play Your Court using my link, you get 50% off when you join. Get a Topspin Pro, join Play Your Court, practice and play, and use the Andy Murray technique on your forehand, and there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.